Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 223 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Cody Carson from Set It Off, I want to remind you about the Mistress Carrie birthday bash that's coming up Saturday night, September 28th, at Rascals in Worcester, Massachusetts. Rotten Apple, the premier Alice in Chains tribute band, and Justin Jordan will be taking the stage. The show is 21 plus and brought to you by 100 FM The Pike. Tickets are on sale right now, so get the link and more information on the events calendar at mistresscarrie.com. My guest this week is Cody Carson, the lead singer of Set It Off. The band is getting ready to go out on the Deathless Tour Part 2, with From Ashes to New, New Year's Day, and If Not For Me. They've got 2 scheduled stops in New England at the Palladium in Worcester, Massachusetts on October 27th and at Aura in Portland, Maine on October 30th, just in time for Halloween, which is something Cody and I talked a lot about on this week's episode. We also talked about visiting Salem, Aerosmith, playing clarinet, Taylor Swift, the Olympics, flag football, songwriting, touring, and so much more. I had never met Cody before, but we hit it off and we had an absolute blast. So allow me to introduce you to Cody Carson from Set It Off. What's up, Cody? Thanks for doing the show.
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm really good. It's nice to meet you. I have not met you yet. And first and foremost, nice studio. Where are you right now?
The office in my apartment. My fiance and I have split it in half. She's done a way better job at decorating her half behind me. Mine is just like a white wall. And so I'm glad that this is the background and it's not the other way around.
I love getting a look at where everybody's kind of home studios are and seeing like how they work. And somebody who's in the military back there I can see. Yeah,
that's her. She's a Marine.
I'm married to a Marine.
No way. Semper Fi.
Yes, I am. He's almost 28 years.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, she's no longer serving, but that was a big part of her life.
I do a lot of interviews talking about the military because not only did I marry into it, but I come from a long line of military service members in the family. You might be the first rock star where your significant other was the one that was in the military.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been raised, like a ridiculous percentage of rock stars were raised by veterans.
Yeah.
But even though the percentage of females in the military, it continues to rise, it's not very often that you meet a guy whose girlfriend or wife was the one in the service.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that when I met her initially. We were both in Clearwater, Florida. She went to Clearwater High School and was part of the ROTC program there and fell in love with it and decided that's where she wanted to go with her life. And it obviously, like anybody in the military, really shapes you. And I think it's really helped us communication wise. She's always very straightforward, and I've always really appreciated that. And just nothing but respect for the journey she's taken in the military.
Yeah, you don't have a shortage of brutal and blunt honesty when you're in love with the Marine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I prefer it. East Coast mentality. People tell you how it is, right, when it is.
Yeah. Now, you're originally from Florida, right?
Yeah, I'm from Clearwater, Florida.
Yeah, so if you're going to be from Florida, you're almost grandfathered into being from New England because there's so many transplants and snowbirds down there.
Oh my God, yeah. So my family's all from like the Philly area. So like when my dad, when we came down here, he's a big like Eagles Phillies fan. So when he found out that he was moving to Clearwater where they spring train, he was like so pumped. So yeah, a lot of people from the Northeast end up down there. She's from New York, so same sort of story.
Yeah, it's like you either go down for the winter or you make the pilgrimage to Fort Myers from this area because you want to go see the Sox.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what's up.
I've spent a little bit of time in Tampa. What's the pirate festival?
Oh, Gasparilla.
Gasparilla. So I went down there a few years ago with my boyfriend, now husband, and that was an experience.
It's a fun time. I went once with my sister and I had no idea what we were getting into. We dressed up like pirates and it's just, it's a wild time.
Yeah. Let me just tell you that if you're on a scavenger hunt for sober people, you're not going to find any at Gasparilla.
You're going to lose 10 times out of 10.
Yeah. And then, of course, the fact that Tom Brady, put a dagger in our hearts and left New England and then went to Tampa. Right at the beginning of a global pandemic, it was like, can it get any worse?
Yeah, they're just stacking on top of the Northeasterns.
Yeah. How do people in Tampa, after he goes down there and wins a Super Bowl, handle him coming up here and saying things like, I'm always a patriot? Like, that's got to be like, what the fuck, bro?
You know what? I don't think that they hate it. I think everybody in Tampa was just blessed. They felt just so lucky to have him come in. Because like, what more could you ask for? Like, hey, open the front door, come in, win us a Super Bowl. Thank you so much. Go say and do whatever you want. Yeah. And that's kind of what it was. Like everybody in Florida was just fine. That we're not your forever home. We get that, but thank you so much for what you did.
And you guys got a little bit of a taste of what it was like to be in New England for 20 years. It's nice, isn't it?
Oh, I'm not a Bucks fan myself, but for my family, I got to see them. Like my brother-in-law's a big Bucks fan. I was very happy for him, even though we were talking a lot of shit. It was a good time.
That's one of the things too, when you're talking about being from the Northeast, a lot of other regions around the country don't know how to take the ball busting. And they don't understand that if we're not busting your balls, that means we don't like you.
Yeah, you're not. That means they're not being authentic with you, and therefore you're probably not trusted by them.
Yeah, which when we're just being nice and polite to you, that's like the biggest warning sign. It's like in the horror movie when everyone's about to die, and you're just like, this is not going to end well.
Yep. You see a mile away.
If we're being polite to you, it's like, dude,
buckle up.
Nobody likes you at all.
Yeah.
You guys are going on this big tour, and it just so happens that the dates in New England are all right around Halloween. I'm sure that was totally by accident.
It actually was, and I am so pleasantly happy about that. I didn't realize it was going to be around that time. So, I don't know if we're going to be around like the Salem area. I've never been around there in the fall time. I'm trying to see that.
Well, I looked at as soon as the tour got announced, because I'm on the radio on a bunch of different stations. So the show in Portland, Maine, I'm on the Bone there. The show at the Palladium in Worcester a few days before, I'm on the air there. So when the tour got announced, because I know Ash Costello really well, and her and she's been on the show so many times, I know it's odd to look at me and think that me and Ash would be friends. And and when I saw the tour dates, the first thing I did was message her because she, every time she comes on the show, talks about wanting to go to Salem. You guys aren't playing on Halloween, and
there's an off day.
Yeah, and you're gonna be like, you have to drive by Salem to leave Portland, Maine.
I wonder if we can do a twofer, because I have a plan right now, if I'm being honest with you. So there is this amazing, for all my like haunt fans out there that like haunted mazes and stuff, I'm obsessed. I've been going to Halloween Horror Nights since 97. I was just screaming since I was a kid. So there's this amazing documentary called Haunters, Art of the Scare. It's not like a mainstream thing. Huge fan of it. It covers people that do haunts, whether you're like low level, like just you're in their neighborhood. They're the people that are the haunted house, all the way to like Halloween Horror Nights and everything in between, including this crazy guy, McCamey Manor. Have you heard of McCamey Manor?
I don't know.
Oh my God, this dude, like, it's like he tortures people. Either way, watch it. It's amazing. But one of the things, which I think it's in New Hampshire, I'm not exactly certain. It was this giant, like, wooden skull, like, made in the woods. It's like, it's massive. So I showed it to the guys in my band last, like, season. And our drummer Max fell in love with that image. And that actually inspired the production we currently have for the Deathless Tour. We have this like big old devil face on the stage, and it's inspired by that documentary from that area. So we want to try to go on Halloween, but now I realize that we're going to be near Salem, and that plan might have to change.
So the first thing I did was message Ash because I was like, honey, do you know where you're going to be? And she didn't even put 2 and 2 together. And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like,
no way.
You're driving by Salem on Halloween. If you guys want to do the Salem thing, I will take you and show you around Salem on Halloween if you want to take the tour there.
Okay, plans might be changing. That sounds amazing.
And what would be hilarious is that somebody like Ash, who's so recognizable with her hair and stuff,
yeah,
it's like the one day out of the year that she can walk around and look totally normal. Like, nobody would probably recognize her because she would just be out on Halloween in Salem.
Straight up, every time every Halloween season, you walk into a Halloween store, you see the wigs. There is always, I'm convinced they've seen Ash's hair and they 100%. Just stole it and sell it. Yeah. I wonder if there's a lawsuit there. It's half red, half black. It's always there. So people might be like, oh, they got the wig.
Yeah. I just talked to Slash a few weeks ago, and we were talking about horror movies and Halloween. And I asked him, is Halloween a time, like for a week at the end of October every year, can you walk around and have people think you're a dude dressed as Slash and not actually Slash? And he said it happens all the time. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That people look at him and they're like, oh, yeah, that guy must be dressed up like Slash. And nobody thinks it's actually Slash.
Man, I wonder how many times that's happened in general. Just it's Halloween. You see somebody with a very iconic look. And you're like, oh, what a great costume. And you could have said hi, and now you can't.
You have to be that guy that goes up in the off chance that it's like Ozzy. Because it just could be. Because it's the only time of year he can walk around and really kind of blend in.
Yeah, that's unreal. Like, I never even thought about that.
One year I went to a big Halloween party that the radio station was throwing, and I got dressed up in like a business suit and wore like pearls because it was, and nobody recognized me because it was so far from what I would normally wear that people just thought I was like a stockbroker that just got out of work. I had a briefcase and everything. People were like, there's no way that's her.
Halloween's one of my favorite times because I always go overboard. And like right now I live in like the Los Angeles area, and no one ever goes, let me not say no one, but a lot of people out here, status quo, don't go all in. They want to look cool or hot. And me and my girl, not at all. Like one time we went to an industry party that was a Halloween party, and we dressed up as psychotic clowns, like even had like the fake teeth and blood coming out. We showed up and people are just wearing like a leather jacket. And I'm like, what the hell, dude? So one of my favorite moments of that, though, was there was this show. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called The Last Man on Earth with Will Forte. It's on Hulu.
I'm going to have to check it out. I don't think I've seen it.
Such a funny show. I feel like if you push through the first season, it's just an iconic series. But there's one part where you might have seen an image where he gets half of his face just completely shaven. Like he had long hair, so he had no eyebrows, half a beard, and half of his head is bald while the other half has long hair. I literally went and got a bald cap and like then a wig and cut the wig in half, glued. I made the whole thing. So I'm showing up with just half shaven, half beard. And it was an amazing time because it's become about the reaction you get. We're going to these parties and no one's like trying to like, the spirit of Halloween to me is that like trying to go all in and find the weirdest costume or the scariest costume you can and just having fun with it.
I don't understand people that don't love Halloween because when it comes to stuff like Thanksgiving, it's so based around the laborious meal, right?
Yeah.
And obviously like Christmas, Hanukkah. There's so much focus put on the gifts. Halloween, its sole purpose is fun and candy. I don't know how people are like, nah, I'm not that into it. Like,
oh my God,
we don't even live on the same planet.
It's got to be the experience you have growing up. Because like my girl's from Harlem. She like grew up in the projects. They didn't have, I grew up in the suburbs of Florida. I was able to have like trick or treating. I was able to go door to door and experience that white picket fence version of it. So I understand like at first she was like, Halloween's whatever. It's like, please let me show you. Let me show you what's amazing about it. So we would like get tickets to Halloween Horror Nights. We would go to Not Scary Farms. Like our month becomes filled. Like I'm trying to do everything every weekend. I want to go to a new experience. If you got local haunts in your area, you got to go during the Halloween time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so much fun.
You've got to be friends with Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills then. Because,
love Spencer. I love Spencer.
So he's a local guy. You know he's from here, right?
Yeah. He's Massachusetts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, basically, New England's so small that we just like we all just kind of gravitate. Like we're just all when people
family.
Yeah, when people say, "Oh, you're from New England," you just say Boston because people are like, "Where?" If you say Portland, Maine, or they're like, "Where?" You say, "Oh, I'm from Boston." You're like, "Oh, okay." And we share all the sports teams anyway, so it's like whatever. But Spencer loves it so much. He's got his Silver Scream Con, which is his own con now because of it.
Incredible what he's built.
Yeah.
It's really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like just to see where it started and the sort of just the fan culture around it, to see like horror fans that also love music, like rock music, find a way to tie them all together. It's just so cool to see that world be built. So kudos to him. I was actually playing a show in Detroit and he was going to be a guest at one of like the horror cons in the area. I think we're playing outside of St. Andrews. And I saw a billboard with his face on it. And I just had to send it to him right away. I was like, did you know that you're on this? He was so pumped, as he should be.
I can't wait. I'm going to have a booth this year, so I'm super, super excited.
Oh, yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's just one of those things that it's like Halloween is just so, it's just so good.
Aren't you ready for it already?
As soon as the 4th of July is over,
yeah,
I'm already, not that I want the warm weather to go away, because being from the Northeast, you want to hold on to the warm weather. But people that live in places where it's warm all the time, right? So either, Florida or like Texas or Arizona or like LA or something
Arizona,
like that.
Yeah, it's brutal out here right now, yeah.
They don't understand that the seasons in places that have all 4 seasons, that it's not just a weather shift, that everything smells different. There are certain recipes and things that you eat that you only get at certain times of the year.
Yep.
The air in the fall in New England smells different.
Dude, the fall is the best out in the Northeast.
Yes. It's like
seeing like the movie moments are real. Like the seeing like that street with all the trees and the leaves falling, and you can almost hear the music of like a movie in your head. It's insane.
Yeah, like if you've never like gone walking in the woods with all the leaves changed, eating like a apple cider donut, drinking hot apple cider.
That exists?
Oh.
Apple cider donut?
Dude, are you?
I'm not kidding. I've never had one, and that sounds like it's going to be my favorite thing.
I'm telling you, when I take you to Salem on Halloween, I am bringing you apple. They rather than put like water in the donut mix.
Yeah.
They make it with apple cider. And then it's coated with like brown sugar and cinnamon on the donut. Like God. It is fall in a donut, and you only get them like middle of September until right around Halloween or so, and then they're gone. So it's like the seasonal things, like anything pumpkin related. I'm a super fan of. Yes. Yeah. And so as soon as we get through the 4th of July and you've had your fill of like the hot dogs, hamburgers, and grilling, like the fireworks and all of that kind of stuff, you're like, oh, we call it Han Solo season up here because girls all have long sleeve shirts, puffy vests, pants with boots. Like every girl looks like they're dressed to be in Star Wars.
Oh my God. I thought there was like a pun coming up or something, but I love it's just they look like Han Solo.
They all are dressed like Han Solo in the fall up here.
Funny.
It's like the New England girl uniform. And,
that's awesome.
And of course, it's playoff season for the Red Sox and the start of Patriot season. So it's like, how can you not look forward to the fall being from this
best.
area? And anybody that doesn't get seasons the way we get seasons, they don't understand why we look forward to the change in the seasons, because it's a whole new thing.
Yeah, I think the only reason I can appreciate seasons is because we tour. Like I lived in Florida and then I lived in LA. Though I did have family up in the Northeast, like in like Philadelphia. My grandparents lived in like Hocus, Delaware. So like I would, for like Christmas time, we'd go up there, and that was like how I saw snow for the first time, was by doing that. And then for fall, like I went to college in Ohio. So I spent like a whole year out there, and I saw every season there, I'll tell you that. But the fall was my favorite. I don't know. I've never spent the fall like an extended amount of time in the Northeast, but that just seems like an absolute dream. I'm not blowing smoke too. It just seems like the perfect place to do it.
I tell everybody all the time, October is the best month of the year. It starts on my birthday, October 1st, and ends with Halloween. Nice. And the whole month is just, the weather's mild. You could still ride your motorcycle. It's totally acceptable to be dressed for Halloween on any given day.
Yep.
Apple cider donuts. Like, it's just freaking perfect, and it's gorgeous.
That's awesome.
The scenery's beautiful.
You're getting me hyped as hell. Like I'm ready to run through a wall. Like I was already excited. Like I started like adding like cold foam to my cold brew just to get like a taste of what I'm about to have, you know, just like anything I can. I'm probably going to watch a horror movie tonight. Just trying to ramp up. Let's get there.
It's a really good place to tour in the fall. Like I was so excited when I saw your whole itinerary, because I know the guys from Ashes to New. I know, New Year's Day. And so knowing that you guys, and it couldn't be a more suited tour for that time of year up here either. It's like, yes.
Yes. No, it's perfect.
It's going to be so much fun.
I'm really pumped. And I'm excited to see everybody during that time. Everyone's going to be in the spirit. Our show in Portland, Maine is what is it like?
It's
the
October 30th. Halloween? Yes.
It's the day before. Oh,
yes.
Let's go. I gotta come in costume. I gotta get a costume.
Everybody better come in costume.
I hope so. I really hope so.
And so if you're going to have, say, a Set It Off themed costume for the band, there's 3 of you. So like, do you go as like Rush with the kimonos and the skin tight white pants? Like what do you dress up as if you're going to agree as a band?
Oh God, the 2 that I remember that we've already done in the past was one this was like around Team America. We all came out with mullets, and our intro was the Team America theme song. That was a really fun one. And we just like, I think we all wore like jean shorts too. It was perfect. I think we chugged beers on stage. And then the other one, this was last minute because, this is actually kind of a crazy story. We had a show taken away from us. This is like back in the day when we used to book all of our own shows. And I gave this one guy in a band from like the Chicago area this idea to do like a big Halloween show. And this is like, I'm talking MySpace times. Like this is how far along this was. So he was like, yeah, absolutely love it all. And he's putting it together, and I'm blocking this date out for our show. Last minute, we're like coming up, we're like, hey man, still haven't heard info about the show. Like, when are we playing? What time? Where are we in the sun? He goes, yeah, sorry, you got booked up. And I was like, what? So we got taken off the show that we had the Inception for. So we were super bummed out. We thought we had no show on Halloween, so we didn't have anything ready. And this other band out of nowhere who we met like by doing an acoustic show was like, hey, we're playing a show in Indianapolis. It's a Halloween show. Hop on. So we like last minute went and got like face paint, and we went as Kiss for that one. But for this one, I'm not sure. But I think I want to bring back a costume I wore like 2 years ago. Or no, I think it was last year, but I've never worn it on stage. I've always related to Star-Lord from from the Guardians of the Galaxy. Just like being in love with rock, but also the music I listened to was very much the stuff that he listens to. So I might pop on the leather jacket, I rock the Walkman. Who knows? We'll see.
I just read this article the other day that said that Gen Z, they're buying up all these cassette players, and that they're starting, because so many new bands are releasing music on cassettes, and they're starting to learn why we hated cassettes in the first place. Because like,
where's the next song button?
Well, not only that, but then all of a sudden you hear the and you're like, no, and you open it up and out comes the tape. Like, the pain, and you're like, where is there a pencil? I need a pencil to fix this problem pronto.
Yeah. Oh my God. The days. Oh my God. You're bringing me back. I love it. I love it.
What album did you have to buy multiple times because your Walkman ate it on cassette?
Oh, I don't remember which one because my sister was the one that usually bought I had no income at that time, but I would always steal hers. And I think the one she had we burned through the most was like TLC's Writings on the Wall album.
Not the answer I was expecting from you.
No, I mean, I knew it would probably catch you off guard there, but that was the one. I listened to whatever she was listening to, and I like grew up on that like 90s pop and R&B through her, like 70s pop and rock through my parents, and then whatever I can get my hands on, like rock and nu metal at the time.
I call that the soundtrack to your childhood.
Yeah.
And I have this theory that there's two kind of eras of your musical life, that there's the soundtrack to your childhood, so the stuff you get from your parents, your older siblings, and then you hear something that you decide you like, and from then on you're different. So if the 70s stuff and like TLC was the soundtrack to your childhood, what did you hear that you decided, okay, this is what I like?
Oh my God. I'm trying to remember which order it came in because they're very polarizing, but I think it was Linkin Park that started me in the rock world. For me, it was like multiple doors opened at the same time. So there was one door that was rock and nu metal. There was one door that was pop punk. And then there was one door that was like pop. So like Backstreet Boys started the pop door. And then like Linkin Park, System of a Down. I think it was the song Sugar was the one that kind of started my nu metal phase. Because I remember watching the music video and being like, what the hell is this? And being super enthralled. And then in my pop punk world was Newfound Glory. I was going through like a breakup and my buddy was like, I got the track for you. So that was like, and that was always my favorite way to like, cause I wouldn't always stumble across stuff. I loved when friends would show me their favorite things. And then there was ska as well. I'm kind of all over the place.
Well, your upbringing, you had so many different influences geographically that it doesn't surprise me that musically you were kind of getting it from all sides too.
Yeah.
And now nu metal is back and almost bigger than before. It's crazy.
It makes me so happy because I can dip my toes back into it again. Like that was what got me through so many like tough times, and it was what gave me that sort of aggression that I needed to find as an outlet growing up. So to be able to write in that style is just a blessing. Love it.
I talked to Sonny Sandoval from POD and we were joking because his son, now that all of the nu metal stuff is back, so is the fashion. And he's like, do you know what all of the Jenko jeans would be worth that I threw out because I never thought I would want them, and now they're all back again?
It's cyclical. It's coming back always.
And seeing all of the documentaries and stuff, because I went to Woodstock 94, but I was at Woodstock 99 too, in the middle of that craziness.
Yeah.
And I was on the air starting in the late 90s, and being the only girl on the air at a really hard rock, like active rock radio station that was helping to break Korn and Limp Bizkit and, all of the bands, System of a Down and Tool, and having Stained and Godsmack and Reveille all break out of Massachusetts and New England. Like, that music is so kind of ingrained with the early years of my radio career. And the pictures I've got of like I just talked to Head from Korn, and I found a picture of he and I, and like he's got dreads down to his knees now, but they were like 2 inches long in the picture.
Get out.
Oh yeah, hilarious.
Never stop growing.
He's like, you need to send me that picture. I need to see it. And it was just I look back at all of those times now, especially with like Slipknot celebrating their 25th, Korn celebrating their 30th anniversary this year. When all of that music hit, it became a punchline for snobs that were like, oh, yeah, like those guys are going to be the next Led Zeppelin or whatever. And it's like...
Spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying they are Led Zeppelin.
But as far as notoriety and influence, it was
to
massive.
That generation, those are the bands that have stood the test of time.
Yes, and that's always been how it goes, and it's always how it's going to be. It's like the next new type of rock that comes out. We're going to hold on to the stuff, us, like what we love. But it is exciting to see what people are dipping their toes into, like how genreless things are becoming in a way. Like I just did a song that we're trying to release in September, God willing, that it's like my background in high school. I was in jazz band and I was in like concert band and stuff. And so that is very much a part of my life. And I was working out one day and a song came on that was like big bandish. And I was like, what if there was like a big band song with like heavy guitars? And that's weird, but we tried it out and we really love it. So we're going to try to drop it. But that's kind of what I'm saying is like, I feel like we're at a place right now with what's being released where everyone's just having an immense amount of fun with all the influence from like, the Led Zeppelins from back in the day, but also the new metal scene, and like current rock is just expanding. Rap is finding its way into it as well. And I'm sure people want things the way that they're used to having them. But for me, it's really exciting to see what people are willing to do and how they make it work. That's also really interesting. Is it seamless?
It's not fragmented the way, like when I was growing up in high school, the music you listened to that you said you liked represented how you felt as a person. And music was very siloed. So if you liked In Excess and U2, you didn't like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. And if you liked Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, you probably didn't like Bon Jovi and Skid Row. Yeah. And like even amongst rock fans, it was very fragmented. And the patches on the back of your jean jacket said everything about who you were, who your friends were, who you hated. And now so much of that music is being borrowed from in ways that I just don't think it would have been possible back then. That you've got this really interesting blending of country and rock, hip hop and country, hip hop and rock. Like it's really, look, if Rob Halford can be on Dolly Parton's album, we have gone to a whole new place in music.
Yes, absolutely. It's so exciting. To me, I just absolutely love it because we're not staying in one lane, and it's fine. It's fine to be in one lane, but if there's other avenues and places that I can explore still, I got to see what it's like. I want to do some exploring. I don't want to stay in the same place my entire life. And that's what's really cool about it. You get the option to go see what else is out there.
I'm so glad that I have another marching band alumni on the show because
What did you play?
Clarinet, bro.
Me too.
Shut up.
I'll grab it right now.
Mine is right there. I'm not kidding.
I'm not. Did you know that was going to be my career path? I dropped out of college. So I was in Ohio at Oberlin Music Conservatory pursuing clarinet performance. And I dropped out after a year to start this band.
It's very rare that I get another clarinet player on the show.
Yeah, you just blew my mind. This is awesome.
And there is no heavy metal clarinet. Like,
so you want to know something? That song I was talking about? Guess what's in it?
Shut up. Are you kidding?
I played the clarinet on it. I played alto sax on it. And there's like, it's very much like Sing, 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 Benny Goodman style. There's like a nod to It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing by Duke Ellington. It's very much that old school, like Benny Goodman influenced like jazz, but in a rock song.
I always wondered what it would sound like because obviously you've got guys like Apocalyptica, right? That have taken cellos and put it through like Marshall guitar stacks to see what it would sound like. I always wondered what it would sound like if you ran a clarinet through like Eddie Van Halen's guitar pedals.
I didn't even consider that. Like running it through a signal chain and distorting it.
Come on, dude. How have you not done this? You still play.
I didn't even consider it. There should be a clarinet solo that's distorted rather than a guitar solo or a layer of it.
Oh, with a wah-wah pedal or something.
I wonder if there's got to be a way where it's not just like an electronic clarinet, but like an organic one that you can, they have like the talk box.
Yes.
If there's a way to do that with the signal of like any sort of horn, that'd be really tight.
Oh my God.
Write a song, dude. Let's write a song.
First of all, my musical ability began and ended with the clarinet. Like I discovered really early on that I just didn't get that gene.
What did you play?
Like the clarinet? Like what?
Yeah, like when did you play?
Oh, I played in junior high and high school.
Junior high school. Cool.
Yeah. So marching band, like the ridiculous, the Northeast, as you know, is big into football, as a lot of places around the country are, high school football, all that. And so I was in the marching band and the Veterans Day parades and halftime at the football game, but I just wasn't good at it. And I tried, but I've realized that in a lot of ways, my brain is too logical. And so the imaginative part of being a musician and kind of inventing melody or something like that, like, that's not how my brain works. But it's why I love what I do, because when I talk to people like you, I get to climb around in your brain for a while and see how it works, because mine doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that too is, so I was in jazz band, yes, but when it came to like improvising a solo on like an alto sax or clarinet, couldn't do it. On the spot, for some reason, I just couldn't put it together. But I remember there was an assignment to write your own solo. So when I was able to bring it to the side and like sit down with it, and like then I was like, oh, I can hear notes in my head. I just can't turn it into that on the spot. So like that's kind of how I was able to do it. So I was my band director loved to like give me crap. So I like if I was like too square on a part or it just didn't sound laid back enough or anything. So I was ready to get torn to shreds. So when I played the solo and he liked it, I was like, you're messing with me. You don't like this. There's no way you like this. And he was like, no, I think it's good. And he like let me play it at the spring concert in high school. And still, even while that was happening, I was like, is this a big joke? Is everyone just making fun of me right now? They're like, no one's ever liked a solo I tried to play, but the fact that they like this written one was like actually kind of my first realization that maybe I could like write music. And that's kind of where it started, was in high school. I never wrote like a rock song at this point, but it gave me a little bit of confidence. So I get that though, what you're saying about like that on the spot, boom, let's go. I need to sit back and kind of look at everything. That's how I operate.
I like a lot of different styles of music, but I was very slow to be able to appreciate jazz because in a lot of ways it was messy in my head.
I feel you.
You know what I mean? Like, I love the blues. I love, obviously, rock and roll based off of the blues, all of that British invasion stuff that got inspired by, North America's blues movement. But I appreciate jazz more being at the show and watching the players than just listening to it. Because it's like my brain's trying to make sense of something that's not supposed to be made sense of.
Yeah. I totally get you too, and especially the types of jazz that there are out there. Like I've tried to get into avant-garde stuff where it's like notes just outside of the scale. I can't. It's not for me. It's got to have some structure to it. So when I hear like a solo played and it's all like in the box and it's in the melody, it's in the scale, I can get behind that. But I do see what you're saying. Like it can get messy, and then it's just kind of off-putting sometimes. It's really personal preference. But you're right. When I see it live, it's like going to see your favorite guitarist live. You're watching an unbelievably skilled musician tear it up on the spot, and it'll explode your brain. That's my favorite part about jazz, is live jazz.
Yes.
Seeing people do stuff that I can't do. And I'm just sitting back like, oh my God, I wish I could do that.
Well, that's what made me finally be able to appreciate it, because I'd only listened to it. And then I finally went to a jazz show and watched the musicians perform it. I don't know what it is about my brain that tries to categorize and organize. It's a very logistical way that I function.
Yeah.
And so the creative process of writing my own music, or heaven forbid, trying to write lyrics and like actually write songs.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And I've interviewed naturally gifted songwriters, right? Like people that are songwriters by trade, and then somebody like Jelly Roll who can collaborate with anybody, write songs for other people, write songs for himself. It just comes out of his pores that way.
Yeah.
And I am fascinated by it, because there is not one synapse in my brain that it's and he tells me anybody can write a song, and I'm like, no, I just don't believe that it's possible.
I'm of the mind of that as well, that anybody can, because there is this blockade you have to get by. And I remember this specifically. So I said that was like my first time writing anything, which was jazz. I remember the first time trying to write rock music. I was with a good friend, used to be my brother-in-law, Jeremy. We were in a band together, and he would write all the music. And I would see how he wrote, and he would just play guitar and just start going, he would just do that out of nowhere. And like, that would just be a melody. He's just, here it comes. And I was like, okay, how do you do that? And he couldn't explain it. He's like, you just kind of have to do it. Like, you have to just let it just come out of your head. Don't edit it as it's coming. And I tried doing it at first, and I couldn't. I kept stopping myself. I'd be like, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. And I would keep stopping. And then once I eventually just let go, and my favorite phrase, I think Aerosmith coined this phrase, dare to suck. Like, once you dare to suck, is when you start seeing results. So I'll bet you if you did try just in your room alone and started see what comes out and like record it in your voice memo, you might be surprised. You might be surprised.
I don't know, but I appreciate you sucking up to the New Englanders with the Aerosmith reference.
I wasn't even trying to. It is one of my favorite writing phrases. Dare to suck. I wrote a song over the pandemic with my fiance. She's not a musician at all. And she's like, I want to see what you do. And I told her that phrase because I wanted to show her that sort of thing, like trying to write a melody, trying to come up with a lyric. And you can't do it if you try to edit as you're doing it. You just has to come out and then you fix all the crappy parts. And that's kind of where you go from.
It really is interesting the way that your brain forms. Like I've had so many conversations with musicians that from an early age, they were the kids that not only were playing drums on the pots and pans in the kitchen, but had rhythm doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and for me, I had a little toy tape recorder.
No way.
And I used to walk around and talk into it and like interview people.
That was your pots and pans.
Yeah. And then
that's awesome.
I got really curious as a kid because I always got kicked out of the room when the adults were talking, you know, as you did back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I hid the microphones in the house plants so that I could bug the room.
Surprised you're not in the FBI.
Yeah. Because I wanted to see what the adults were talking about when they kicked us out of the room.
Yeah.
And then I, like an idiot, back to the cassettes, went in the room to flip the cassette over and got caught.
No. Did you get in trouble?
Kind of. I think they just were like, what is wrong with you?
I would have been impressed to be like, all right, yeah,
But it really is funny how young you can be and show a hint of what you're going to be interested in later. Because my husband doesn't do what I do. He doesn't work in the music business at all.
Yeah.
But because of what he does, he's very linear in focus, right? Very, very mission focused. And my linear brain, I think if you talk to anybody that works in radio or podcasting or media in general, our browser window has 37 windows open at the same time.
Bunch of tabs?
Yeah. And our desktop is riddled with stuff that looks completely unorganized on it, folders and random JPEGs. And we're constantly thinking about 17 different things at the same time, watching the clock, running an interview, talking to someone. And our brain works like that. Whereas,
that's such a skill. Oh my God. When we're on stage, like, a lot of people have in-ears, and a lot of times people will have talkback in their ears. So like if there's an issue on stage, someone goes, hits a button like, hey, I need guitars up, and everyone hears it. I had to tell them I need that out of my ears. I have zero talkback in my ears because if someone's talking to me while I'm talking, my brain short circuits. I can't do what you do. I can't receive information and spit out information, retain what was just said, but then still stay on the same train of thought and continue that. Oh my God, that'd be a nightmare.
And I think it's something that is in the wiring of the brain. You know, to go back to Aerosmith, my buddy McGee was Joey Kramer's drum tech for decades, right? And Steven Tyler would be on stage with those in-ears that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And during guitar solos and during other parts of the songs when Steven wasn't doing anything, McGee told me on this show, because he came on the podcast, that he would tell Steven Tyler dirty jokes in the middle of Aerosmith songs. Because I think... Because I think for people like me, and I think, if my brain functions at all like Steven Tyler's in any way, if you don't have too many things going on, you get frozen. Your brain stops. You need 17 things going on at the same time or you can't function. I don't know if I should be medicated for this or not. I'm totally open to that possibility.
I think it shows how well you're able to process information while not losing your train of thought. For me, it's like, I think, but I'm also like, I'm forgetful. Like if I don't have something in front of me, like my AirPods, if I have those with me and I don't hook them onto me or I don't put them in the home that they're belonging in, I'm losing those. So like, that's kind of how, if I go to the grocery store and I buy vegetables and I put them in the drawer where I can't see them, they're probably going to go bad. I'm going to forget that I have vegetables because it's not right there in front of me. Just like any task, like I have to focus on the task and complete that task. And then I'm like, okay, on to the next one. I wish I could like do multiple things, which is weird though, because I also play drums. For some reason that computes with me. But like information, I think is much more difficult for me.
Well,
like verbal.
Yeah, I think drums, though, again, I have no rhythm, so I can't do it at all. But the way that I perceive it, because I've sat behind 10,000 drum sets in my life, is that it is very structured. It is very, muscle memory. Every drummer sets their kit up the exact same way. Everything is exactly where it was yesterday. Yep. And it's almost all you can see.
I never thought about how routine it is, but you're right. It's always the same. And if everything gets moved around, your muscle memory goes haywire.
Yeah, and it controls almost your whole line of vision.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that you would be comfortable there.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle. I also like that too. It's like, what's my right hand's doing this, my left hand has to do this to fit in the gaps. Like that's fun to me. It's like figuring it out. Maybe that's another part of it.
I can't do the control all my limbs differently. My brain, it makes sense, but I don't have the coordination for this hand to do something, that this hand's doing something else, and then that foot's doing something else. Mike Mangini was on the show, another mass hole, right? And he got behind a drum kit on the show. And I told him while he was playing something totally off time and, super complex, to say to the best of his ability what his brain was thinking while he was doing it.
Oh, whoa.
It was bonkers. Because
what did that sound? Was he speaking in tongues? Like
it literally sounded like he was channeling like nuclear codes or something, because he was
counting?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
It was crazy. And I'm just like, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, there's some things like I've tried to play along to certain beats that are like polyrhythms, like simple beats. I feel like are pretty easy and to like wrap your head around playing. As far as like say you have like a basic knowledge of drums, but then once you start breaking into things like that, like mixed meter, like I'm like, okay, I can't sprint yet. I'm still walking. It's tough. I have so much respect. That's my favorite thing about like rock in general is like you get to see how many talented musicians and what they're capable of. It's the same feeling as going to see a jazz show. You're just watching people do stuff that you can't personally do, and therefore it's incredible. It's like watching sports.
Well, you'll appreciate this being a band geek like I was. I mistakenly thought that professional musicians of every genre could all read sheet music and write sheet music. Because when you grow up in the marching band and stuff, that's how you learn.
Yep.
And so I always thought, to bring up another mass hole, I talked to Nuno Betancourt at length during the pandemic because we were bored, didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah.
And he told me that he couldn't read music. And I was like, but what do you, like, you're one of the greatest guitarists in the world. What do you mean you can't read music? And so when I talk to guitarists now, I ask them that. And they're like, yeah, no, I can't read music. It's all by feel. It's all by groove. It's all by melody or something. And it shocks me how many professional musicians are not fluent in the language that they speak for a living.
Yeah, I almost envy musicians that have started by ear, because like speaking of structure, if you get raised in a system with rules and you adhere to those rules your whole life, you're going to abide by those rules subconsciously, basically your whole life. So even when you're writing, sometimes you can get caught in this box, and learning how to get outside of that is like the magic key. But people that have learned by ear already have that spiritual freedom and that musical freedom to just go with what's the best instead of what is correct. And that is such a game changer, just perception wise. But when you said that, I have to say, have you heard the corny joke about drummers and sheet music?
No, but I love a good drummer joke.
I kind of gave it away, but like, how do you get a drummer to turn down? Put sheet music in front of them.
Oh. It's so funny, the hierarchy of jokes, because it's like, there's the singer and the guitar player, right?
Oh, yeah, they all got the personalities.
And then there's the drummer and then the poor bass player. Like, it's just...
It's all the heat.
All of it.
Because bass is so important. I feel bad. Bass players don't deserve that much heat.
Well, I've asked multiple bass players on the show to, like, describe your job, like your role and why what you do is so important. And the explanation that I heard the best was that they are literally the bridge between the guitar and the drums, that there needs to be a bridge to get from one side of that river to the other, and that's what the bass does.
My favorite thing in like the writing process is while we're recording things is, let's say usually we're just starting with the guitar and then we throw the drums in. Hearing just guitar and drums sounds nice. You throw the bass in there and it comes to life. It is like, I know people like to use like anatomy, but like some people say that the drums are the backbone, and like I think like the bass is like the heart. It's just like it gives it so much depth and personality. And without it, it feels empty. Yeah. It really does. So and also nothing greater than like one of those iconic bass lines that just drives a whole song, which like one of my favorite of all time, weird reference, but like Let's Groove by Earth, Wind and Fire. It's very basic bass line, one of my favorite of all time because that is the song. So when it can drive it like that, that's important too. It's cool when it gets to take the lead. It doesn't always get to shine like that.
That's why Tom Hamilton, in the middle of an Aerosmith show, it's at Mr. Sweet Emotion. He got his spotlight.
Yes.
They gave the bass player, like, imagine trying to find your spotlight when you've got Joe Perry and Brad Whitford on the stage with you. Yep. P.S. Steven Tyler is your front man. And then Sweet Emotion comes and you're like, yes.
It's like when they let the offensive lineman score a touchdown. It's a great sight.
I love a fat guy touchdown dance. I'm sorry. Yeah. I just knew. It's so good.
You got to give it to him.
Which is why that Saturday Night Live skit with the cowbell just makes so much more sense.
It's one of the greatest skits of all time.
Of all time.
I got a fever.
I was really excited to talk to you because one of the things that's different about music now, with technology, a lot is bad, right? A lot of things have changed in a negative way. But one of the things that has come out of the good thing about technology is that Set It Off, Dirty Honey, there are a lot of examples now of bands that have been able to find success outside of the typical big record label mechanism. The idea that you can be a really successful indie band and have a career was once near impossible and now possible and is being proven to be possible every day.
It was nerve-wracking making the decision because it felt a little bit like uncharted territory. We've heard of people that did it and have started independent. Like I feel like the biggest examples we'd hear were like, Macklemore would like claim to be entirely unsigned. And I don't know how true it was, but maybe it was just a distributor. But either way, I was like, well, the only example I know of like massive success at the time was like him. And I was like, well, great. What are the odds here? Let's go. But our contract ended with Fearless Records and we had the option to re-sign with them or someone else. And we just started thinking about how much we missed having both hands on the wheel. And because that's how it all started. I put all of my money that was going to go into year 2 of college into buying a van and my guitar and my amp. And we started with no money and just grinded our way out, booking all of our own shows. And it was tough, but that's where we learned everything. And we were responsible for everything. And we had full accountability of anything that went wrong. We could point the finger right back at us. And as you start introducing more and more people into your team, the grip on the wheel loosens a little bit. Something goes wrong. There's a million fingers that can point a million ways. And we wanted to be able to start pointing back at ourselves again. And I think that's kind of where it started. But also the fact that we were able to find ourselves just a distributor that cares about the artist so much. STEM is who we're with. And they're like, yeah, we'll make sure your music goes to the right places. You guys handle everything else. And it's not like a record label. It's refreshing and they really look out for you. And we just have to make all the decisions and write hopefully good enough songs to make it to the radio and keep touring and doing what we're used to doing it. I do think it helps that we've been a band since 2008. We've had a lot of experience. We've learned a lot of harsh lessons. So we know, hopefully, I'm sure we'll learn some more things through more mistakes down the line, but a lot of things to avoid and a lot of the things to do.
Well, it's a totally different way to come up in music, quitting school, buying a van, grabbing your guitar and hitting the road. Yeah. Now to go back to the technology and how some things are more difficult and some things are easier, you can become an overnight success because of a 30-second TikTok video.
It's nuts. Yeah.
which if you had told somebody in the MySpace era, right, when it was just a big deal to become the song on someone's MySpace page, that you could become famous off of a TikTok video.
It's crazy how much the access has become just accessible or just like a normal thing. Like I remember, we got our start kind of through YouTube. I was just doing covers in my dorm room because I missed being in a band. But you have to seek out that stuff on YouTube. You have to search.
Yeah, you gotta hope that you get fed the algorithm correctly.
Yeah, but with TikTok or Reels, you just swipe and you're seeing somebody new. You're not even following them. That's the thing that's cool. You're not even following them. So it is exciting. So there's two sides of where I lean two sides with this. I'm excited that anybody can get discovered quickly, but I also feel for them because anybody can get discovered quickly because the oversaturation has never been higher and it's harder to stand out now. I think that's the most difficult thing. Like you look back to the 80s, 90s, 70s, and usually I'm not, crapping on any band right now or any artist, but usually back then it was just whoever was the most talented, the best songwriter, they got noticed. And now it's everyone's noticed. So it's kind of hard to decipher who's in it for the long haul, who's willing to pay their dues, who's willing to go, eat shit for a while. And I don't know. I'm conflicted with it.
One of the things that has come out of that era, though, which I think is great, and so many bands are doing it, you included, is putting together these amazing tour packages where you've got a bunch of different bands that may all sonically be a little different, but if somebody's a fan of one of the bands and they get a ticket and they go to the show, they're getting exposed to these other bands. It's kind of like you're feeding the algorithm of the live show where look, you might not have heard, If Not For Me or From Ashes to New or New Year's Day, but if you Set It Off, now you're going to go to the show and you might leave the fan of one or two or all of the bands that were on the bill. And so many bands are doing that, making sure that every band on the bill is great.
I think it's so important. You're paying for a ticket price and it shouldn't be just for the headliner. You came for a full show. And I do think as time has gone on, people are more interested in seeing the opening acts too, which I think is really sick. I really like that a lot. So that's always really important to us. We want everybody to fully enjoy their entire time there. We don't want them to just try to show up at 8:39. Come for the doors. Everyone's going to be awesome.
Well, Spencer and I were joking about how different it is to open for Metallica now than it was back in the 80s when people would get in there and turn their back to you and flip you off the whole time.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. If you opened for Metallica, you knew that everyone was going to hate you. It was a famous thing that you were going to be completely disrespected because Metallica fans were there to see Metallica. Fuck you, opening band.
Dude, that's got to be so conflicting as the band because you're like, well, we're on tour with Metallica. Wish that we would gain a single fan from it, but...
And it's almost like Metallica was like, look, we got to chum the waters for the Sharks, so we're throwing you guys out there. We know you're going to
I wonder if they gave them a heads up, but listen, you can come on tour with us. They're going to fucking hate you.
There's old footage on YouTube that you have to just look up of old videotaped Metallica shows. Yeah. And people would just throw things at whoever the opener was.
Oh my God.
Because they were not Metallica. Dues. Yeah. If you opened up for Metallica in the 80s, you are still a successful band today.
Are any of those jerks still around or are they giving our boys in Ice Nine some love?
No, I think it's different now. I think like you're saying, I think music fans now kind of understand that the band wouldn't be there if Metallica didn't want them there.
Yes. Oh, I wonder if people didn't think that way before, where they're like, who's this interrupting my time?
I don't know.
This blockade to Metallica.
Or it's just look, I'm here to see Metallica. Especially back in the 80s with no internet. You've been waiting months. You waited in line to get a paper ticket at midnight. You're like, I just want to see my favorite band and you are in the way.
Yep, 100%. That makes a lot of sense. There was a lot more that went into that rather than just going online, click, got it, see you soon. Also, I know you're going to be back next year, or I know you're going to be back in 7 months because everyone tours all the time. That's another thing. Is probably the demand of seeing an artist that you love is, how many times probably Metallica they didn't have to tour all the time. I wonder how often they did tour in the 80s.
It's so funny. Speaking of TikTok, when you see people making videos that are young, reacting to like how things used to be, like stories their parents told them that, like, well, how did you get tickets? Well, you called an 800 number and you waited on hold, and then you talked to a person who told you, well, there's 2 tickets in row L of 218 and there's 5 tickets in row Z of 222, and you're on a corded phone in the kitchen trying to decide, like, it would take 15 minutes for you to buy concert tickets.
I'm not going to lie. I just learned something. I knew that there was phone calls, but I didn't know that there was a person responsible for telling you the seats available in the sections that you were looking at.
Oh, yeah.
My last memory of buying a ticket that was physical was like me and my friends in high school wanted to go to Warped Tour, so we went to our local record store and they were selling tickets there. But I loved that, like there was something nice about running to the store in person, holding your ticket, knowing this is where I'm going. And there was something about, like, it became almost like this iconic thing in your possession. Like you'd bring it home and set it like on the table, your desk, and you're like, I'm going to that. You could point at this and be like, that's happening. It's like your gift wrap before Christmas. It was the best feeling.
And you had to wait. Like before Ticketmaster, I think it was a regional thing, but we had Ticketron here. And the Ticketron offices were like inside department stores. And so, or you had to go to the actual venue where the concert was, and you stood in line, and they would say the line forms at midnight and the tickets go on sale at 10 in the morning. And if you were a diehard fan enough and you had parents that didn't care whether you lived or died, you'd go and camp out all night, and you would meet all of these like-minded psychopaths that were willing to wait all night to buy a ticket. And the person behind the counter would be like, well, I have tickets in section 119, or I have to, and then they would show you a mock-up of the venue and say, do you want to sit here or do you want to sit here? Like, it was this really personal, weird, painfully long, time-consuming process. And now it's like you go into the queue.
Online queues. I mean, it's what's worse? Like, honestly, I think I'd rather be in that situation you're talking about with like-minded people around me, talking about how excited we are, than just staring at the screen waiting. 4 hours left, and then, I accidentally refreshed the page. I'm in the back of the line, like that sort of thing.
The only fan base that I think is at all kind of old school like that is Swifties.
Yeah.
That, like, they are so passionate about every aspect of it.
Yeah.
That, like, the waiting to get in line, the outfits. Like, I remember toiling over what I was going to wear to Bon Jovi when they came back to town. Like, what my outfit was planned out a month before they hit the arena.
I love that.
And Swifties kind of have a little bit of that old school, that it's
without a doubt.
Yeah, it's an event with like-minded people. You're going to belong to something. Yeah. And I think rock fans are like that a lot, but I think Swifties have gone full psycho when it comes to that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like,
it is really exciting to see, though.
Metal fans have not gotten to the friendship bracelet stage of fandom, although
I would love to see that.
We're like trading friendship bracelets with like nuts and bolts and razor blades and like
skulls and real bones.
I mean, you are coming to town. I'm just saying, maybe somebody wants to make some set it off friendship bracelets for Halloween.
If you're out there, start the trend. Let's get it going.
I'm super excited about this tour, and I think, you guys have done a really good job of getting a bunch of bands together that are really kind of all bringing their own facet of rock fans to the show.
Yeah.
And I love the fact, being somebody that came up in music, the formidable years of my music life were in the 80s when it was, a woman's place other than like Lita Ford and Joan Jett was like in the music video on the Jaguar, right?
Yeah.
And now you've got somebody like Ash that's on this tour that is getting it done.
Yes.
Every woman that I have on the show now, the novelty of them being a woman in rock is less and less every time, which for somebody like me, I've been waiting for this moment now.
Yes. It's exciting to see, like with Ash. I've known Ash for a while. She's such a hard worker. And it's at the end of the day, that's all people care about. You know, it's like you're busting your ass, you're writing amazing songs, you put on a great show. That New Year's Day cares. You know what I mean? Like their live show is amazing. And it was exciting. We have that song, Partners in Crime, together. And we were so pumped to be able to bring them on tour. We haven't done that together since Warped Tour in like 13?
So tell me it's in the set list. You guys are going to play it together.
Of course it's in the set list. We're doing it together live.
Awesome.
Yeah, I reached out. She goes, "Are you kidding? Of course we're doing this." So we're pumped. We're getting the OG lineup back on stage together. So we're really pumped. Like a lot of people, we just found out it went gold. That single just went gold, and we just got a plaque. I got it right over here. I'm really excited about it.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're excited to be able to do that together again. But Ash has like paved the way, just like a lot of other people. It's really cool, like seeing Spirit Box now. You know, like female fronted screaming, like it's a really great time. It's a really great time in rock.
I talked to Morgan Lander from Kitty recently because I was around when they were teenagers and they just started.
Yeah.
And so many of these younger bands with women in them were inspired by seeing a group of girls in their teen years like open up for Slipknot in 1999.
Hell yeah.
And be like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And you don't realize the kind of influence you have until years later. You know, I think the ladies in Kitty are finally starting to realize, you know, how much impact they had on music at that time.
That's gotta feel great. Because I obviously at the time, like you said, it was tough. Just trying to survive out there and prove their worth. And then that like, look, I belong. And not only did they prove that, but they've influenced the next generation of female rockers. And that's just, what more could you ask for?
And we're in a great time. What do you think about this? I feel like we're in a renaissance of rock music again. Like rock is very cyclical. We've gone through really dark times. And I think every genre of music cannibalizes itself. Grunge showed up because the 80s music got ridiculous.
Too polished.
Yeah. And then grunge kind of phased it out and new metal came in and was something totally different. And now I feel like hip hop has had its time and hip hop has started to cannibalize itself. And now rock is kind of here. And like we were talking about before, willing to kind of borrow from different genres and take chances. And the collabs.
Yes.
This is the year of the collabs all of a sudden.
Yes. It's about time for rock, if I may be honest. Like that's the one thing. That's one thing that hip hop culture has had down and understood for a long time that rock has needed to come along for. Because it's whether like hip hop is incredibly competitive, you know, each rapper thinks they're the greatest alive, as you should. You gotta work your ass off. Like that's how you feel. But what they always did was lift each other up by having each other on each other's songs. And I was hoping rock would start doing that more often. So to see more rock artists doing that is only going to help rock. It's only going to lift up the genre. Like that's what helped hip hop and rap come to the forefront for so long. Everybody helping each other out. And the thing that can kind of irk me sometimes is the thing I do get is how competitive being successful in the music industry is. But sometimes people get lost in that and they think there's only room for only one at the top. No, we are now in a time where everybody can win. Everybody can win because of the amount of access. No one's just like, I want one. Like no one has one favorite band now. So I think the more we lean into that, helping each other out, leaving room for everybody to succeed, the more rock will flourish, the faster it'll get to the top and the longer it'll stay there. And, but naturally, like with anything, there's going to be, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Just exhaustion by exposure exhaustion, I guess. I'm sure there's a better phrase for that.
Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, it's going to happen because it's been there for so long. But I do see what you're seeing. I see that the collaborations are becoming more often. I see that rock is getting the spotlights shining on it again and getting brighter and brighter. And as somebody in a rock band, it's very exciting. It's so exciting.
Well, it's totally normal that Carrie Underwood's doing a song with Papa Roach. If you had told Jacoby that 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, they would have been like, what?
It makes me so pumped when you hear like an artist outside of your genre loves that genre. Like I also heard that Carrie Underwood loves Bow Down by I Prevail. And I was like, that's sick. But that's great. That's another artist exposing their fan base to a different genre. Like, oh, well, she loves this. Maybe I'll love it.
And it's totally different because she actually knows the music. There is something to be said for a Kardashian wearing a Slayer t-shirt. Like, that's when you
listen to Slayer.
That's when you become the name 3 songs in the meme.
Oh, yeah. I was guilty of that one time when I was in high school, or was it middle school? I went to Hot Topic and found an Operation Ivy t-shirt. And I was like, I just loved the design. And I put it on and I got called out. I was like, well, can I still wear it? Because it's really sick.
I bought a shirt at Hot Topic once that said Psycho Bitch on the front, which for years, for decades, they called me the baddest bitch in Boston, right?
Love that.
So I was like, I'm buying that tank top. And I didn't know that it was an Insane Clown Posse shirt.
Oh my God. I didn't know that.
And somebody came up to me and was like, I didn't know you were a juggalo. And I was like, I'm not a juggalo. And they're like, you're wearing an ICP shirt to Ozfest. And I was like, this is an ICP. I had no idea. Because it
were
just
people going, whoop, whoop?
I just was like, I had no idea. And I'm at Ozfest, like backstage broadcasting live, taking pictures with every band on the Ozfest in this ICP tank top, and had no idea it was an ICP tank top. But it didn't even have the band name on it. It just said Psycho Bitch on the front. And I was like, well, that's fitting. I'm wearing that.
And they had to be a fan to know, because that was a song title?
I don't know.
Album title? I don't know. But that means that there's ICP fans being like, yes.
Yeah. I was like, I have no
awesome.
idea what you're talking about. I just thought it was hilarious that they had a tank top that said Psycho Bitch on it. And I was I absolutely need to wear that.
Oh, we've all made those purchases. I once went at Warped Tour. My cam was there, and I just wanted a tank top. And I think I got swindled by their merch person, because I wanted this tank top, and apparently I didn't know at the time it was a woman's tank top, and they only had a certain amount of sizes left. And I didn't know until I got home and put it on when it was skin tight that I got the wrong size.
You were wearing a medium.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. As small as the medium could get.
Well, you were talking about how there's room for everybody, and the way that you described it, back in like the mid to late 90s, women in rock, it looked like that there is only room for one.
Yeah.
And if you had one, right, if you were playing a female fronted band on the air, it was like you met the quota. Like, I was the only girl on the air for years, because as long as I was the token girl. And when you were in music meetings, trying to figure out what new music to play, it was like, well, we already have a girl band. And now, I mean, they would code those songs with an F for female, and they didn't want.
What?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, that it was coded with an F for female, and they never wanted 2 songs with female singers playing back to back because they were afraid it would make the station not sound heavy and tough for the male audience.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's all that kind of stuff that look, it's like artist separation, right? Like, do you want Audio Slave and Soundgarden to play next to each other?
Yeah.
Stuff like that kind of makes sense, right? That you're like, oh, okay, I don't want the station to sound too similar. You want to stretch it out a little. Do you want the Foo Fighters and Nirvana playing next to each other? But when you put all women artists in the same category, and no matter how different they are, it's like, oh, we can't play Fleetwood Mac and Heart back to back because they're 2 girls. We can't have that. Like, it's so ridiculous, but that's how it used to be not that long ago.
Yeah. Even like when I was in like very entrenched in the pop punk world, I felt for any female fronted vocalist of a pop punk band because they were just automatically Hayley Williams. And it's their voice doesn't sound like Hayley at all. And they're not playing the same songs or even the same style. Like Paramore's evolved incredibly since that first album. And sometimes it still happens. There's this band called Glimmers that I recently discovered, who's I think amazing. And they wrote a song about I'm Not Hayley. And I think that was really cool. But it's upsetting to think that it's about that it's a female, not about how the actual band sounds next to each other. And I just think it's maybe people unable to separate the two. But I am happy to see that it has made generous strides since then, because that's brutal. Just coding it with an F for female.
Oh, yeah. That was normal to the point where when I became a music director, I coded it that way because that's how it was done.
Yeah, that was just protocol at the time.
That was protocol. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it that you don't want the station to sound clumpy and you don't want it. And it's just so different now. I mean, back then, female artists would talk about getting stopped backstage by security because people thought they were the groupies. And it's like, hey, bro.
Yeah. Singer.
I
Back up.
I kind of belong up on the stage, dude. Like, I'm on my way there.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny.
Well, you witnessed the transition away from that then, right?
Yeah, I started on the air at night in Boston in April of 98.
Wow.
Having been at the station through all of the 90s as an intern, working on the street team, like handing out bumper stickers at concerts. And I did all of those things.
That's how you climbed your way up.
Yeah. But I started
tight.
on the air in April of 98 and then became the music director in like 2003. So I got to see like the behind the scenes. But for years, I was the female night jock that which is where Mistress Carrie came from. It's where the name came from, is that I was the other woman in these guys' lives that they spent every night with me and that their wives knew about it. Is like the other woman in my life is Mistress Carrie. They named me that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's where the name come from. That's awesome.
Yeah, but I really have seen so much of it change. And also the acceptance, and it's not just with music, right? Like the idea 30 years ago that you would have female coaches in major sports, or that you would have play-by-play announcers or women on sports talk radio that actually knew what they were talking about and weren't just there to be eye candy on the TV broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing coaches raise their daughters to know the game, and the daughters grow up knowing the game so well that they can become a coach, that they can, it's coming up. Women's sports is in a different place. Women in rock is in a different place. I think the world, when it comes to women and how they're taken seriously in the workplace, is different.
Absolutely. It's all like the evolution of it all. And I was just watching this show with my fiance called Women in Blue on Apple TV. And it's based on the story about in Mexico City about the first women that they inducted into like the police force. And then we started doing like some research about when did women start getting into the military? Like when did that first start? Like back in World War I, how controversial was it? Just like people breaking their guard down slowly over the traditionalism and what they were used to and the roles that they believed everybody should be in, and becoming more comfortable with it not having to be that way, because it's not going to be, and it shouldn't be.
Well,
like it should just be an individual venture.
How many of those stories were lost in history about the female test pilots in World War II? And you had these women that learned how to rivet and learned how to weld to build planes because the men were overseas. And then everybody came home from World War II and put these women back in the kitchen like they didn't just help win the war.
Yeah.
Like your grandmother was a fucking badass.
Yeah.
And you just didn't know because she made really good cookies.
Yeah.
But she could weld.
Yeah. Yeah, the Shay, that's the name of my fiance, worked on helicopters. She would repair helicopters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though, we've been at war for however many years since 9/11 now, and the role of women is totally changed, I guarantee you women would look at her and never assume she was a Marine, never assume she was a helicopter mechanic, because she's a girl, although, there were even stories about female veterans that were having to fight for veterans benefits because people didn't believe they saw combat.
Yep.
And it's like, huh?
She's dealt with the scrutiny and the prejudice as well.
Yeah, it's so different. I saw something on TikTok the other day that women could get a business loan without a male cosigner. What was the date? I was in high school.
Wow.
When I was born, my mom couldn't buy a house without my dad signing the mortgage.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It seems so long ago, but it's really not that long ago at all.
And so when you're raised with the stories, people wonder why women are like the way they are now. Is because my mom raised me to be like, you need to control your finances because we fought for you to have the right to do that. Don't ever ask for for money from somebody, make your own money and be in charge of your own money. And so that, you wonder why you've got a generation of freaking women in rock like me. It's because our moms were like, make your own money and buy your own fucking house. That's what
But
they
it's
were
also
telling
a
us.
testament. Like I loved hearing that. Like you started with like the paying your dues at the radio station, street team work.
Yeah.
Like interning. Like that's you worked your way up the ladder. You knew what you wanted. You knew the world you wanted to be in, and you fought until you could make it a career.
I was the first woman they ever hired on the street team because they didn't think the women could pick up the PA equipment. I was the first female music director on the station in 50 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy to me that there are still things that they say, oh, you're the first woman to do that. Like, it's getting less and less all the time, but it's still.
But it also means, like, just like Kitty, you're also influencing other women that want to be on the radio or have influenced other women that want to be on the radio. I think that's pretty damn cool.
I had a girl DJ come up to me at a convention and say that to me, and it made me cry. Because I bawled, and I was just like, because it never dawned on me.
But you probably don't, it's not a thing you think about doing. It's just you were just fighting your battle. And it just happened to inspire somebody else. To know that it did that is something really special.
Yeah, it's really, really weird to think about, and it kind of cramps my brain a little bit. So I would rather kind of be huddled down in my little soundproof cave, you know what I mean, and just do what I do and not think about it. But it is kind of crazy that, like, roads are still being plowed.
Yeah.
For other women,
Yeah.
I got to ask you some music questions before I let you go that I ask everybody.
Yeah, what's up?
Give me an artist that you can turn to in any emotional state, and they have a song for you.
Whoa, that's a great one. Any emotional state.
Yeah, you could be happy, sad, depressed, angry, whatever it is, and one artist will always have a song for you. Who's that artist for you?
Oh my God, I hate that I don't have it right off the bat because I've always been so album to album for mood. I might go pop punk with this one, going back to that story when I was going through the breakup, and I'm going to go Newfound Glory. Newfound Glory was great for that. It was a breakup song that I needed. It was when I was having problems with friends. It was when I wanted to be happy and carefree. I think they were really good. They were my favorite lyrical style too. I call it poetically to the point, where it's not just conversational and easy rhymes. Like they would fight for the best rhyme, but also tell you a story. I'm going to go with Newfound Glory.
And as a songwriter, this is a songwriting craft question.
Mm-hmm.
As a songwriter, give me an example or two of a song you think is perfectly crafted. A song that is so well written you wish you wrote it. And it can be anybody, any genre of music, alive or dead. But just a song that you go, oh my God, that is the perfect song.
This is the first thing that popped in my head, and it's such a weird answer. But All By Myself, I know it wasn't originally performed by Celine Dion, but the version she does with the key change at the end is one of the most incredible key changes I've ever heard in my life. I'm going this gut reaction. I'm sure I could give you like 40 answers. This is a very tough question to answer, because I also think I also was thinking In the End. It's just a beautiful song. God. And then also, if you're going like new metal, this is such an obvious one, but break stuff. Just two notes. You know what it is.
100%.
I like songs like that like you can, I'm giving you too many answers, but either way.
No, but they're all different, which is great.
Yeah. Like I love songs that you play, like you can pick it up in half a second, but also encapsulates the entire genre, gives you an outlet. That's what break stuff does. It's just, you're angry, put that song on. Damn it. If we're going in like the pop rock world, Thanks for the Memories is one of my favorite because it has like the orchestral element in there. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place, but.
You bring up Celine. It shows you how musically diverse the world is, that the two big musical performances at the opening ceremony of the Olympics were Celine Dion and Gojira.
Love that so much, by the way. That's exactly, it proves what we were talking about.
Yes.
The acceptance of all of this is just, it's perfect. It's how we should be. It's how it should be.
I am one of those people that gets sucked into the Olympics. I watch every sport. I don't care. Archery, yep, I'm in. Gymnastics, sure, why not?
Breakdancing.
I had such high hopes for the skill level because I've seen on the streets, right, some great breakdancers. And so I was like expecting Olympic gymnast level skill.
Like Simone Biles flips and
head spinning on a piece of linoleum.
Yeah,
like,
it's the Olympics.
Yeah, especially being American, right? Which is where it came from. The bar was set so high. And then I watched even the gold medalist. And look, I'm not an Olympian, so who the hell am I to say anything? But I was like, that's Olympic level breaking.
I think anybody on the streets like, yo, bring it back. Like, I'll go audition this time.
Well, that was the thing. It was like, look, it should have, all you had to do was go to any major city where tourists gather and street performers are, and you will find the most athletically talented, creative, amazing breakdancers.
Some of the best, some of the most talented people are on the street. Like
100%.
Like it's unbelievable. So that gets me thinking of the selection process. Like, how did we select who represented? Like, how was there a bulletin somewhere? Like, where was that spread out message of how to audition to be an Olympian for breakdancing in the United States?
I mean, I'm not surprised they're not bringing it back to LA in 2028 because I think a lot of people were really expecting this athletic prowess.
Yeah.
And to have their heads blown off by amazing feats of athleticism and creativity. And all of us were like, really? That's...
You know what I am ready for is flag football. I know that sounds maybe a little bit of a hot take. I just want to see Tyreek Hill go one-on-one against anybody from any other country. I just have to see that.
I think it is so funny how much American football gets shit on in Europe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And look, like when you watch people play rugby, sans helmet, no pads.
Oh, they're tough motherfuckers. Yeah.
You know, going back to the women, like Alana Marr, like she's from New England. She's a Vermont girl, making us proud, right? These women are beasts.
Yeah.
Tackling each other in T-shirts, eating mud. Like,
I remember the first time I saw what rugby was. I was at my friend's house in middle school, and his father was a big rugby fan. So he subscribed to a magazine, a rugby magazine. And the cover of that magazine was a close-up shot of a guy who was in the turf having his head held up with two middle fingers in his eyeballs. That was so impactful. It's still in my brain.
Yeah.
I'm 35. I was in middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'd go through hell.
The flag football thing is really interesting because when you do take the violence out of football, it gives you the opportunity to see the art and the athleticism required.
Mm-hmm. And also your ability and your discipline to not hit somebody as hard as you can when that's what you've known.
Yeah, well, it's like watching hockey and somebody that can skate really well and fast. And then you bring out the goon, right? Who just, it's his job. And look, as a New Englander, we love the goons, man. Like, the more fighting in hockey, the better as far as we're concerned. But when you take that part of it out, you do get to see the artistry of Gretzky or Sid the Kid or somebody that can just skate like a figure skater with a hockey stick. It just doesn't make any
route
sense.
Running.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm super excited. It's on my bucket list to go to an Olympic event someday. Just to be able to see it and the fact that it's going to be in LA, I already told my husband we're going.
Awesome.
I don't care.
Maybe I'll see you at the flag football event.
I don't care what event it is. I'm hoping Team USA is competing, but I will go and watch literally anything. I just want to be able to walk around a host city at the Olympics and kind of experience it for myself because I grew up like the Mary Lou Retton era. You know what I mean? Like that whole hierarchy of the Olympics and the world being kind of fascinated by it all and having zero athletic ability.
Same. When you were saying something earlier about I get how this works. I think it was about playing like an instrument, but I can't do it. It's like that feels like me and like basketball. Like I get how I should be able to do it. Can't do it.
Well, look, you and I are both sitting down behind our respective microphones. You don't look like you're 6'8".
Oh, I'm not.
Okay.
Also, probably know that because I'm actually standing. Oh my God.
I needed that laugh today. Thank you for
man.
that. That's fantastic.
No problem.
I am so looking forward to you guys being up here on this tour in October. It's going to be awesome.
I'm pumped. It's going to be a good time.
So before I let you go, run down the music plan for Set It Off for the rest of the year and into 2025.
Absolutely.
Are we releasing singles? Are we working towards a full-length album? Are we talking EPs? Because everybody's doing it differently, especially indie artists.
Absolutely. So we've been releasing singles for the moment, and we've been enjoying that journey because we've always wanted to do that. But now they were independent. We're like, we're going to make our own rule book. Here we go. And so we have quite a few more songs that have not been released yet. So I think what we would like to do, and this is kind of exclusive, is we want to work towards an album, and we're going to drop maybe a few more songs. And then hopefully towards the beginning of next year, we will have a brand new album for Set It Off to give the world.
On colored vinyl.
Oh, vinyl, for sure.
Are you doing the cassettes? Are you going there?
So that's the thing is, I don't know. So just straight business talk here. I don't know the production cost of doing that. We don't have a sample size of knowing what the demand is from us for cassettes. We know that our fans love vinyl records. So we're definitely going to do that. But I would be interested to maybe do like a very limited run. And if they sell out super fast and people want it, maybe we'll do more.
Last year, vinyl outsold CDs for the first time in 30 years.
Did it really?
Vinyl, I've always loved it. I've never gotten rid of a record. I have all my CDs, all my cassettes. I've never gotten rid of music. I have
That's awesome.
My parents' collection of 8 tracks in vinyl that I inherited.
Oh, cool.
I've got it all.
Yeah.
It did not surprise me that vinyl came back for the experience of it and the sound of it. The cassette thing, I'm still not like...
I know. See, that's the thing is like when I had cassettes, it's all I knew at the time. It was my option, like obviously there was vinyl, but like to use my parents' vinyl player was like, I don't think I was allowed to because they were worried I would ruin it.
Because you would have.
Oh, absolutely. Me, I was a hyperactive kid. I would have broken that thing. But so I knew how to use cassette players. Cassette players. And then I, saw the evolution from that into CDs, and that was a pain in the ass too. Like how much it would skip all the time. But now what's weird is my introduction into vinyl was not too long ago. As far as like me being a personal fan of owning them and using them, me and speaking of Halloween, you'll appreciate this. Me and my girl invented our own personal couples holiday. I know a lot of people are going to sigh heavily at this, but we call it Ghouls Day.
I was going to say it's already happening in March. It's called Steak and Blowjob Day. Everybody's heard that day already. March 14th.
I got to pitch that one to her. See what she thinks. But October 1st, we call it Ghouls Day. And we just give each other a Halloween themed present. And so like 3 or 4 years ago, she gave me this cool looking vinyl player, and like 3 or 4, because I like the scores of horror movies a lot. I just think that that's another avenue I'd like to go down someday in my life, is scoring for film and stuff. So she gave me like the score for like the most recent iteration, not the most recent of the trilogy they're doing, of that Halloween one where John Carpenter and his son got to write the score for it. So cool. And a bunch of stuff like that, like, The Bride of Frankenstein, like the really old school sounding vinyl. So now I'm becoming a massive fan of it. Now I need to figure out how to store this stuff, but it's I get it. The size of it, the sound quality of it, the experience of it, setting it down, hearing it click on. It's a no brainer.
Well, Ghouls Day in New England is called Mistress Carrie's birthday.
October 1st. So we should be getting you some.
But yeah, it really is like when you go back and look at the archaeological dig of like music, right? Like you had the radio and then you got vinyl, but you were stuck at home. 8 tracks allowed you to pick what you listened to in the car. But cassettes, for as much as we're using them as a punchline, cassettes made music portable on your person.
Yes.
And they made mixtapes possible.
Yes, I was the kid that would call the radio station, request a song, have the cassette tape in, and just waiting for either the intro. I was always hoping there was an intro to the song and that it just didn't just cut on, because I don't know if I'd be fast enough. After a while you walk away, you got to come back. But recording the songs from radio was like such an exciting thing to do. I miss that.
You know that you are successful in radio the first time someone calls you in the studio and yells at you for talking over the intro of the song.
That's really?
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding? Because they were recording it on the radio.
We need to make longer intros. I want that moment.
Stop talking over the intro of the song. I'm trying to record it. Like,
oh, man.
It's such an old thing to say now, but
oh,
so
absolutely.
funny.
Now that I know it's for the recording, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm trying to make a mixtape for my girlfriend and you talked over the beginning of it.
God, is that uncommon? Do people call just to complain?
Oh, yeah.
What percentage of calls that you field are a complaint?
Radio DJs, look, I think unqualified, untrained therapists, there are 3.
Yeah.
Hairdressers and barbers.
Yeah.
Bartenders and radio DJs.
Oh my God.
We've heard it all.
Do people like open up? Like, I need you to play this song. I'm going through this thing.
I used to do a thing on the air called Mistress Carrie's Confessional.
That's brilliant. Love that.
Which people would call up and confess the shitty things that they did. And then the audience would vote whether or not they were forgiven.
Yo.
Oh, we used to do some fun shit back in the day. The stuff that we got away with. This was before the internet.
Can you have it recorded? Like, can you post that?
I mean, if I could find it, but like back in the day, we used to record our shows on cassette. All my audio from 9/11 is all on cassette.
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah, I was on the air that day. I was on the air the day of the marathon bombing in Boston. Like,
oh my God.
But like we used to record, we called them air checks. We used to record our shows on cassette, and cassettes don't age well. So I've got to go back now 34 years of my radio career to these old cassettes when I sound like I sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Can you convert them?
I'm sure I can. I just have drawers of them that I would need a team of Santa's elves over here to help me with that monumental task.
Yeah. There's companies that do it with VHS. My mom had like, I think 40 VHS home movies that she found.
Yeah.
And sent it out to a company who did it. It's kind of funny actually, because you realize that you would just record over like soap operas in between family footage. It's just like a show. But I'll bet you they have that for cassette. I'd recommend that. I'm trying to save everything that might perish over time, like into a digital format on a hard drive or something. I'm trying to keep it all. It's tough.
I've even got all of my college stuff because I went to school for radio. All my college stuff is on 1/4-inch reel-to-reel tape.
No way. That's awesome.
And so I've got reel-to-reel, I've got cassettes, I've got mini discs, I've got DATs, I've got CD-ROMs, I've got MP3s. Like, I just have.
Are they all like sorted?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're labeled in drawers based on medium, but like,
wow.
It's a hell of a lot.
I'm trying to imagine how I would do it.
Look, the organizational part of my brain has a plan. The part of my brain that actually wants to do the work is like, fuck that.
It's like a show that everyone's been watching and it's on its 7th season. They're like, you got to get into it. Like, I'm too far gone.
What I'm trying to do is seek out specific recordings. Like, I interviewed Mike Shinoda and Chester Bennington when they were 18 and 19 years old when Hybrid Theory first came out.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Like I've got interviews with Cornell and Weiland and Dimebag Darrell and, Dave Williams from Drowning Pool and like these people that like trying to find those are the things that I want to preserve first to make sure because they're things you can't ever get again.
Yeah. And their legacy. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's just trying to do that kind of stuff, but it can be overwhelming, especially when you're doing 5 or 6 radio shows a week. You're creating a lot of archives.
I'll bet.
I hope I get it all done before I die, because otherwise my husband and my loved ones are going to hate me trying to dig through all of that shit after I'm dead.
I might look up a service and send one over to you if you're interested.
I'm interested because
that's some history right there.
The amount of stuff that I have to like go through it. And you know what's crazy is that it's not even just the celebrity interview stuff, but like, have you seen online where like you see like a catalog or something where it's like shows prices of things and how people bought things before the internet, kind of all of that stuff, like hearing just radio broadcasts from like the 90s talking about the new albums that were coming out and how much things cost. And like, it's like this weird time capsule of, I was just digging through a bunch because of the Woodstock anniversaries.
Yeah.
You know?
Speaking of not that long ago, though, you know what I mean? Like back when it was like album purchases, going to a store to buy a CD and how much that affected charting. Like, I've seen the rise and fall of that, I feel like.
We used to broadcast live from the parking lot of record stores at night when I was doing nights because my show would end at midnight and the store would open at midnight for albums to go on sale. So like when Verses from Pearl Jam came out or, you know, a new Beastie Boys album or something like that would come out, we would broadcast live from the record store the night before because it was such a big deal that that record was coming out at midnight. Like, people look at that and they're like, I just lay in bed and stream it on Spotify at midnight now. Like,
on the West Coast, it's like 9 p.m. Pacific. I got it.
Yeah. I know. We're so jaded on the East Coast because everything is based on when it's convenient for us.
Yeah. And I'm over here. I'm like, I get it a little earlier. That's great, man.
Yeah. I'm good. I can go to bed. Fantastic.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I know, it's so crazy. So yeah, if you find a company that will digitize my years of cassette archives, that would be great. Otherwise,
I already found 3 of them.
I need a team of interns to help me categorize all this shit.
Yeah, no, that's something that you gotta keep. That's so cool.
Well, and you never go into any kind of career like that, right? Like when you started writing songs, I bet it wasn't in your head like, I need to archive all of this in an organized fashion because I'm going to be a professional musician and I'm going to want to reference this stuff back later. Like when I started on the radio, I thought I was going to be fired every day for years.
One of my least favorite things to do actually is stumble across old demos is because it's so hard to listen to old you create.
Old radio shows, my old radio shows. I'm like, why did they pay me? I should have paid them.
And the funny thing is you back then, you were like, I'm killing it, man.
I think that now, and then I go back and listen, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
Do you ever in the current you, like, do something, you're like, this is cool. What I'm doing right now is great. And then there's that other voice going, remember, you've thought that before. How are you, like, in 5 years from now, you're going to look back at you and be like, what was I doing?
I'm going to be producing this interview with you saying that.
I love it. I can't wait. And I hope I don't hate old 5-year-old me.
That's the problem with podcasting, is that it doesn't go away.
Oh, it's forever.
Radio back in the day, it was on the air, and if nobody recorded it, it was gone forever.
In the void.
This podcast, you could have an interview from 8 years ago, and then all of a sudden it shows up in an algorithm somewhere, and it's back like you did it yesterday.
Yeah. It's in the vault.
Oh, it's in the vault. You can't even pull it down if you tried.
Nuh-uh.
And you're like, oh, man.
Yep.
That's why you kind of have to own it. When I start digging through my archives of old interviews with bands, I just did it with Shinedown recently. And I had to go back. The first time they played Simple Man ever was on my show.
Oh, cool.
And I have the original version of it, which is far superior than the album version. Wow. The 20th anniversary was this past January.
Yeah.
And so Brent came on the show to talk about
cool.
that performance. And so I went back and found the original interview. And,
wow.
And the two of us are going, did we really say this shit on the air in the middle of the day?
Did you play it live or you're like, let's see what happens?
It's up on the podcast right now.
Oh man, I got to go check that out.
It's episode 189 of the Mistress Carrie podcast.
That's my birthday, 189.
Is it really?
Well, January 9th, 1989, but yeah.
Yeah, the episode 189 is the Simple Man episode that not only is the new interview of Brent and I talking about what happened 20 years ago and the impact it had on the band, but then I took all of the old original audio off of like the CD. Yeah. And I recorded it on in the studio and put it in the podcast. And we sound like we're sucking helium. Our voices are so high compared to how they are now. It's humiliating. It's horrifying.
Oh, it's crazy.
For the both of us.
That. My voice is significantly lower than it was before too. Like even, because obviously my speaking voice is going to translate to my singing voice. It just happens over time.
Yeah.
So I have to like pitch some songs down. Like I look back at some songs and I was like, what the hell was I trying to do to myself? Was I singing as high as I possibly could?
No, but it's for the way that it's been explained to me, because when you go back and listen to my old radio demos, my voice is so much higher. But the usage that it strengthens the muscles and your voice gets stronger, but also deeper.
Yeah, 100%. I had a vocal injury in like 2018, and I had to go on vocal rest, a strict one for 2 weeks.
Oh.
And I couldn't speak at all. I mean, I could, but I stayed strict on it. So 2 full weeks, no speaking, no whispering, anything like that. And when I came back to talk again, I had like a 10-year-old me voice. It's crazy. It's the one thing we never rest that long. You know, like if this muscle keeps getting used over and over and over and over and over again, but if you give it like a long break, it would blow your mind how it feels to speak again.
My husband is listening to this thinking I would love her to go on vocal rest for 2 weeks.
You can cut this part out if you want.
Oh, no. I'm leaving it in there so that he can just laugh about what it would be like for no talking for 2 weeks for me.
Yeah.
Because he would just think that was freaking hilarious. But like, if my voice gets much deeper, only whales will hear me. It's ridiculous. It's so much deeper now. And I'm like, where is it going to go from here? It can't, like it.
You got to get to the Brooklyn smoker voice. Like, hello, honey. Like,
everybody already thinks I smoke now. And I don't.
Yeah.
It's just, 30-something years of screaming at concerts and bitching for a living on the radio. That's what I do.
Pretty sweet life, though.
It doesn't suck, I will tell you that. Well, I'm so glad that I finally got to meet you today. I cannot wait for you guys to experience Halloween in New England.
I'm pumped.
Yeah, take me up on the offer. If you guys want to go and hang out in Salem, we'll make a day of it. You will love it.
Absolutely. How far is Portland, Maine from Salem? Do you know?
Well, it's not a straight shot because they're both on the water. And if you look at the coastline of New England, it's not exactly a straight line.
Okay.
But you've kind of got to drive by. It's not mileage-wise.
Is it south of it?
Yeah, it's south of it.
That's good. Okay, that works for us.
No, it's on the way. You guys are going to Pennsylvania the day after Halloween. So
yeah, Stroudsburg, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of on the way. But the thing about Salem is that the roads are really narrow and the traffic is ridiculous. So you have to come up with a battle plan to get in there. You can't just drive your tour buses into Salem on Halloween.
Yeah, I'll bring the bus outside of it.
Yeah. So we would have to come up with a plan to get you in there. But it's totally worth it. It's so much fun. I'll
bring it up to the guys. I'll see what we can do.
All right, let me know.
Will do.
It was so good to meet you.
Great chatting with you. Great meeting you. This has been an amazing time.
I had so much fun, and we'll see you in October in Worcester at the Palladium and at Aura in Portland.
Can't wait. Thank you so much for having me.
There he is, Cody Carson from Set It Off. If you want to check him out, the Deathless Tour Part 2 will be at the Palladium in Worcester, Massachusetts, October 27th, and at Aura in Portland, Maine on October 30th, with From Ashes to New, New Year's Day, and If Not For Me. I put the links to get your tickets in the show notes of this episode. You'll also find the link to this episode's corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of my guest music and all the songs and artists that we talked about in the interview. You'll also find all of Cody's links, all the links to find Set It Off online, and of course, all the Mistress Carrie links. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern on my official Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube channel for my weekly video show, Cocktails in the War Room. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the sit rep. The Situation Report gives you all of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. Get the details on all of that and where you can find me on the radio at mistresscarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.